Until this moment, I was able to learn 5 languages without too much effort, including English of course, because yes, I'm not a native speaker, and I'm going to show you exactly how to learn any language you want and speak it like I'm speaking English right now. Let's go. What's going on? It's Rahim again and welcome back to Bazz Business. What you have to do now is just sit back and focus until the end because it's really important to hear all of it. And of course, before you do that, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification. What's the best way to learn a language? What's the fastest way to learn new words? How can I sound like a native speaker? Do I really have to study grammar? Language hackers ask themselves these kind of questions all the time. We all want to use effective study methods so we can learn a language quickly and speak it really well. How can we know if we are spending our time on the right things? Everywhere you turn, language teachers are using different methods and giving conflicting advice. Some learn vocabulary by memorizing word lists. Others absorb it naturally by reading. Some concentrate on the sounds first. Others prefer to improve their pronunciation as they go along. Some swear by grammar drills, others never open a textbook. Fortunately, language learners are the only ones who've been puzzling over these questions. Linguists, the people who study the science of language, have spent decades observing how people learn languages. And while they don't have all the answers yet, they have discovered a lot of cool stuff about what works and what doesn't. So let's take a look at some of the most common questions in language learning and what science has to say about them. How can you sound more like a native speaker? Perhaps the first question to address is, why you want to sound more like a native speaker? Lots of language learners don't worry much about pronunciation. They think that as long as people can get what they're saying, that's all that matters. And there is some truth in this. You don't need a perfect accent to communicate well with native speakers. But the more you sound like a native speaker, the easiest for them to understand you. And the easier it is for people to understand you, the more they enjoy talking to you. So why do we have accents in the first place, and what can we do about them? There are two reasons why language learners have foreign accents. Firstly, it's difficult to tell the difference between two sounds that doesn't exist in our native language. Secondly, other languages can have sounds that require us to use our mouth muscles in a new way. This happens because when we are born, we have super little polyglot brains that can tell the difference between sounds in all of the world's languages. As we grow older, our brain zooms in on acoustic differences that are important for our native language and filters out differences that are not important. This is good because it helps us understand our language better, but it causes problems for language learners because they filter out sound differences that might be important for the language they're learning. And some sounds are difficult because they involve completely new mouth positions, like the rolled R in Spanish and the U in French. For these sounds, science has some good news. It turns out that with a little perseverance, it's absolutely possible to train your mouth muscles to pronounce sounds more like native speakers. Now, what's the fastest way to learn new words in another language? The most important debate as far as science is concerned is about whether we should make a concerted effort to memorize words, for example using flashcards, or whether we should pick them up naturally through reading and listening. As with most battles fought between two polar extremes, they are both a bit right. Both techniques are useful for different reasons, and if you can balance the two, you will be a winner. Now the main question is, do you really need to study grammar? Grammar phobes often ask themselves whether it's really necessary to learn all those grammar rules. Can't we just pick it up with the natural method that is through reading, listening and talking? Linguists struggle to answer the question because it's very difficult to control and measure. Experiments usually compare one group who are taught the grammar rules with another who sees or hears sentences with the same grammar but are not taught the rules. But how do you know each group has paid attention to the same grammar structure the same number of times? What if the ones who aren't taught the rules are secretly trying to figure out the rules in their heads? And what if experiments that find no positive effect of teaching grammar simply aren't being published? Anyway, the results emerging are that grammar rules do help people speak more accurately. These results fit in with my experience as a language learner. Knowing the grammar certainly helps, but spending the majority of my language learning time memorizing complicated grammar rules doesn't feel like the most effective way to learn. Now, what is the best way to stay motivated in language learning? This is probably the most important question of all. You can know all the best ways to learn pronunciation, words and grammar, but if you can't be motivated, it's never going to happen. What you have to do is break down your big goals into mini missions. Breaking down the task is important in something like language learning, where the outcome feels big and scary. Instead of trying to speak German, aim for something smaller and more concrete, like an hour of German a day or however much time you can afford. By breaking it down this way, you are much more likely to do it. And if you keep it up day by day, you will be speaking a language before you know it. Do these findings fit in with your experience as a language learner, or are they different? Let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe if you didn't already. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.